At the end of the Frostwing Halls resides the best girl of the Blue Dragonflight. Should your coordination falter or your magic betray you, your incursion will end here. As she descends from the skies above, Queen of the Frostbrood, Sindragosa. Health pool, damage, swing average, hitbox. Frost Aura, it does 6,000 damage every 3 seconds, 80 yards from the boss. You do not get this in the air phase because she is not 80 yards near you. Permeating chill, chill to the bone. Thorns like proc and debuff from attacking the boss with melees. Every stack does 1,000 damage every 2 seconds, lasting for 8 seconds. Stop hitting the boss to stop getting this from the boss, ideally around 5 to 8. In phase 2, 2 to 4. Unless you're a rogue because cloak is broken. Cleave. This should never happen. This should never happen. Phase 1 Frost Breath. This hits significantly hard and applies a movement slow to the tank. Unchained Magic is a debuff applied to 6 people at loose intervals of 31 seconds. Casting while having this buff gives you stacks of instability lasting for 5 seconds. Each sequential cast refreshes it back to 5 seconds, increasing the stack. When it falls off, you will deal 2,000 damage per stack to anyone within 20 yards of you. This is called Backlash. There's a little bit of nuance to working around using abilities with this mechanic on you. You can go in, say you're a Disc Priest. You can cast an ability into an insta-cast and it'll count as 1 debuff. Like Flashlight, Power Word Shield, instead of just spamming Power Word Shield, Power Word Shield, Power Word Shield. Yeah, it sucks to what you would normally be doing, but it's a workaround to elongate the payout of that debuff. Once you accumulate 3 to 5 stacks, get out of the group, explode, come back in, do it again, repeat until the buff is off you. If you get the buff multiple times in a row, have fun playing the game, it sucks. You can always opt to not cast. Just go full Harry Potter and swish and flick the shit out of your wand. Much very good, Neville. Alright, so next thing. Icy Grip grips everyone in the raid to the center of the boss. This immediately follows Blistering Cold. This will deal 60,000 frost damage to anyone within 25 yards of the boss. If you have stacks of instability, ride them out until you make the distance away from both the boss and the group. Welcome to the air phase. Frost Beacon is a precursor that you're going to get an Ice Tomb on you in 7 seconds. When the Ice Tomb lands, it'll deal damage to anyone within 10 yards and also turn them into an Ice Tomb. You can set this up with 3 stacks of 2 in either a formation of a bar or a triangle, getting absorbs and hots rolling before they land, or 6 stacks of 1. Or you can have the occasional occurrence of somebody not knowing what the hell to do and ice blocking the entire raid. Assuming you did the needful, you begin to play a game of relativity, line of sighting the bombs from behind the ice blocks, all the while working down the ice blocks until the last bomb lands, keeping them alive until that very moment. Asphyxiation will set in on the frozen players. As long as they were topped off, you should have enough time to clear the ice blocks before they succumb. Hots applied prior to being frozen heal them while they're frozen. Using DSAC or AM Frost prior to the Ice Tomb's landing is also a good call. You repeat this until 35% where you enter Phase 2. An Ice Tomb will be applied to 1 random raid member roughly every 16 seconds. The boss will now pulsate an ability called Magic Buffet. Looks like an arcane explosion. Every 6 seconds. It's a debuff that lasts for 8, increasing your magic damage taken by 20% per stack. Everyone in your raid, including your tanks at offset intervals, will have to line of sight behind these ice blocks in order to clear their stacks. If you are behind the ice block by the time the pulse goes out, your current stack is going to drop and you are free to go wherever. You want to position the ice block offset to the right side of the raid, just outside of blistering cold distance. Then for your second ice block, left side of the raid, alternating for each ice block. This allots ample time to line of sight the debuff. Phase 2 Frost Breath. Although this does initial less base damage in the Phase 1 Frost Breath, that completely goes out the window the moment you get a singular stack. The upside is you will not get hit with a movement slow. Ideally, you're tank swapping at 0 to 1 stacks just prior to her casting this breath. If you're forced to take a hit at 3 or more stacks, pop a Coley. It would be advantageous to set up a system with your healers so that you have a healer alternating every other ice block so you have constant coverage on your tank. Anyone who opts to acquire instability stacks in Phase 3 needs to be very careful. Do not go at high stacks, stop at like 2 or 3, and blow up away from everybody else. There's enough damage as it is. Anyone who receives Frost Beacon needs to be topped off and hotted immediately. If they are let to die, you don't have an Ice Tomb. If you don't have an Ice Tomb, you can't reset your stacks. This is particularly important for your tanks as they need to keep their debuffs in check. Is a little nuance to this fight. Mages and paladins can immune off Unchained Magic. So in clutch situations where you need healing but you're crippled by a debuff, you can say no, Divine Shield, lol. Or if you want to continue pumping as a mage, Ice Block, Zug. The Ice Tombs themselves do not give stacks of chill to the bone, so as melee, feel free to wail on them. If they're going down too fast, pull rage and energy on them. As a tank, do not be afraid to taunt the boss from her ass end if that's where your ice block is. As long as it's 180 from where she was, it does not matter. One thing that I forgot to mention about Mystic Buffet is that you cannot line of sight it unless you're like 5 yards behind the ice block max. If you are any further than this, it will not count you as being LOS. Unlike the air phase bombs where you can be a mile behind the ice block, as long as you're relative to where it's landing, you will be line of sight. This is completely different. If you are not close enough to the ice block, you will not count as being LOS. It is dumb, but that's how it works. It's like old school Saffron ice block. When progressing this fight, it's not uncommon to opt to get 7 healers into the mix versus the normal 4 to 5. The reason being is so that Unchained Magic can't destroy every option of healing that you have. Do note that it does apply to 6 people. I don't know if there's a cutoff for the healers specifically, but there does exist a chance where even in Phase 2, you have 6 healers potentially getting this buff, one of them being ice blocked, and one about to be ice blocked, leaving you having to choose between not healing at all or healing with the debuff. So if you're going with a strategy that says don't heal if you get the debuff, you might need to bend the rules in order to live in this situation. You can opt to do everything in this encounter roost side versus stair side. It is more optimal. If you want to risk it for the biscuit, and you know it's going to die in the next 30 seconds, like it's sub 9 or 8%, and you just got hit with the Unchained Magic debuff, you can stack that thing to the sky's the limit. As long as it dies before it blows up, you are fine. But if you miscalculate this, oh boy, Accio suck. There's more nuanced stuff like talent selection after the fight begins, having a heal hance shaman so they don't get instability. They're their own videos. I would search them on YouTube if you're interested. It would definitely help you out if you were having trouble here. I'm gonna wrap this up. It's basically the bulk of Sindragosa. As always, thank you for watching. Huge thank you to my Patreon supporters. Here are lists of the sources and content that I have used. Links to the Twitch and Patreon. Gotta love fire whistles. Shout out to anyone who has donated plasma. Here is how far off YouTube is from becoming a thing. Do the things and I can make the bread. Thank you. Now, and I will see you again soon. Wow. TM.